Shalom. Erev Shabbat Kodesh. Welcome. I'm Avraham Shira. We're here at the end of a long day of preparation for Shabbat, the holy day, the 25 hours of a taste of the world to come. We come to Parshat Vaetchanan, and I will beg him. And Moses opens up this parsha begging God to go into the land. We're told us that Vaetchanan is the numerical value of 515 prayers that Moses prayed to enter the land, which is the gematria of Shira, singing a song to God. And God said, no, stop praying, Moses. I'm not letting you in the land. And the sages teach us that if he had continued praying, God would have been forced to let him in the land. So what is this doing? This type of relationship with God where he has his will and Moses has his will, and Moses spent his whole life doing God's will. And suddenly the promise of all promises to enter the land flowing with milk and honey, the one who did everything to get us there, is told to stop. You're not going in because you hit the rock. You did not sanctify my name by doing the miracle as I prescribed it to you. In other words, it's not enough that you're doing a miracle for God. You have to do it the way he says to do it. God said, speak to the rock. Now, it's a very deep thing, speak to a rock. Now, how many rocks do you expect to listen? Right? Do rocks really hear? Do they respond to human invocation? But apparently they do, because God told Moses to speak to the rock, and Moses was impatient because of the Erev, because of the mixed multitude. They were heckling him and making fun of him after his long metaphysical career of doing miracles. They were still making fun at Moses. And he hit the rock. And there was anger in the strike. And Moses was hitting the rock, of course, to bring out water. And Moses had been saved from the water of the Nile, and therefore he, so to speak, had this cosmic debt to water, to treat water very specially, because the water could have drowned him as a baby, and it didn't. And he was saved from the water. So now Moses has a debt to water, and he also has a debt to speak the miracle the way God wants it done. And he didn't, because he was upset, and God said, you're not going in the land. Now the sages teach us that if Moses had continued praying, God would have led him in the land, and then the Messiah would have come completely, that the Jewish people would have established themselves as the eternal messianic nation on their land. There would never have been an exile, if, of course, all things being equal. So clearly, something was going on behind the scenes of our understanding. And one of the great things I understood a long time ago is that I don't understand. And I have to keep reminding myself that I don't understand. Otherwise, I don't make a space in my brain to understand. See, so it works that way. We've got to make a space to receive something new. New understanding requires getting rid of the old understanding. And so here we look at how can it be that God is holding back Moses from going into the land? This is the man at that time and place of all history that God has a chance to make good on his promise. And he says, no, you're not going in. Now the sages say, well, you have to ask the question, why would God not want Moses to come now and bring the Messiah and be the Messiah? Because he already was the Messiah, except he hadn't established the people on their land. Right? And this is something that the messianic vision entails, is the leader has to fight the wars of God, gather in the exiles, and build a temple. So Moses did all that, and he had a temple. It was a portable temple. It wasn't, the big number, but it still worked, still got the job done. But he didn't get it done in the land. So we have to assume God didn't want it then. You see, there's something we need to understand, that miracles have many categories. There are miracles that God chooses when they're going to happen, and nothing will change them. Then there are miracles that only depend on human endeavor. And then there are miracles that are a partnership between God and man, and sometimes angels. So there are many different levels of how God prescribes to change nature. And the coming of the Messiah, the rabbis teach us, which we're all waiting for in one form or another, in one religion or another. Everybody's got a claim on this concept called Messiah, Mashiach, and everybody's got their version, and they love to argue about it. I don't personally, because it doesn't. It's a non-argument. It's something that needs to happen, and then we'll talk about it. But nonetheless, God didn't want it to happen then, and apparently He wants it to happen now because all the signs are here. The Jews have been gathered into the land. They have the land. They have the sovereignty. They have the Torah. They have sages. They have people ready to set up a Sanhedrin. They have people that are ready to meet all the needs, the holy needs of the holy nation, which there are a lot. When you contemplate all the mitzvot that need to be done in a messianic nation. Okay, but it's not happened yet. It hasn't happened yet. Moses hasn't come again. And Rabbi Nachman teaches, Moshe Dahu Mashiach, that the soul of Moses is the soul of Messiah that was created in the beginning, and it keeps reappearing generation after generation through the millennium. There were many Moseses. There were many saviors. It's not a concept singular in time. However, it is a concept that we feel, a lot of people feel, it's getting closer and closer. And the rabbis teach us one thing. This is one miracle that depends on us. That God can make it happen anytime. Anytime. If Am Yisrael does tshuva. If Am Yisrael returns to its true self, its true identity, its true behavior, its true relationship to God, its true relationship to the mitzvot. Because not only the Jewish people have been in exile, the Torah has been in exile, the sages have been in exile, the mitzvot have been in exile. When we lost it, we really lost it all. And we've been 2,000 years trying to kind of wander around this planet, trying to do good deeds in order for this day to come when God says, okay, now I'm going to do it. So it kind of leaves things hanging in the air, and that leaves people uncomfortable. Whereas other mitzvot, like the first redemption from Egypt, there was a night, the 15th of Nisan, at midnight, God said, this is when it's going to happen, and all creation is going to know about it. There was a night, the 6th of Sivan, when God came down on Mount Sinai and carved his own tablets for the Ten Commandments, and that was carved in time. That was going to happen that night no matter what we did. But here we have this greatest of mitzvot. It all depends on us. The sages also teach, because the second temple was destroyed because of baseless hatred, which can be, translated as terrible pettiness, or it could be tremendous ego, or it could be hating myself and projecting it on somebody else, which unfortunately happens a lot in the human race. We're experts on converting our self-examination into criticism of somebody else. But all of that, how do we fix it? By coming back ourselves. God says, you broke it, now you fix it. I've been fixing everything all along. And now it's our turn. As individuals, as communities, as a nation, and, well, as a family of nations, really. Because the nations around us, unless they want a lot of conflict, there's going to be a heskem, an agreement that God's house is going to be built in peace and not over dead bodies and rivers of blood, as we've had here in the past. So we have hope. We have hope for a future. We have hope for a time when Moses will be let back in the land. People used to think the Lubavitcher Rebbe could have been Mashiach. He was called Heskat Mashiach. He was Re'ui. He was fitting to be that. He had done most of the work, but he stayed in New York. He stayed in Brooklyn. Just like Moses stayed outside the Jordan River in Baal Peor on a mountain, Har Nebo. And you can see the mountain today. But God didn't want him coming in the land. And there are many sages that were buried outside the land. Because when a holy person dies outside the land, he sanctifies that land. And God, part of the whole Jewish mission is to sanctify wherever we go. So when Moses dies in Jordan, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe dies in Queens, and Rashi dies in France, and Rabbi Nachman dies in Ukraine, All those burial places are holy, and they create a network of holiness for the Jewish people to find their way back, and for any of the nations that want to know the truth and live by the truth. They're there for them too. Now, there are many holy sites that Christians pray, and there are many holy sites, Jewish sites, that the Muslims pray at and take care of. So, it's an interesting thing, but I was just at Kever David, the grave of David, our king, and I was kind of flooded by about 30 people from Nigeria, and we were talking and blessing and taking pictures, and they was just innocent people looking for God. Now, they've been raised on Christianity, and that's what they knew. But they knew the Jewish people were part of the story. They knew the Jewish people were the story from which the rest of humanity derives its own traditions of monotheism. And that means, of course, a vision of the future. And these people were very sweet, innocent, pure people in their own way. Now, of course, they believed in a Messiah that we don't believe in. But it doesn't matter who you believe in and I believe in. The idea is that we believe in the concept. And we get along because of it, and we treat each other right because of it. That's the messianic purpose, is to make humanity get along. It could be any man. It could be, that's not the point. It's not about personality. It's about human collective behavior. And we can all do that today. And that's what Eliyahu Navi told Reb Shua ben Levi in the Shuk in Jerusalem. Hayom, today, if you hear his voice. In Bekolo Tishmu, if you hear his voice, he's coming today. So we need to spend more effort listening to each other and listening for that voice. And perhaps your Messiah will come today. Your redemption, your fruition, your success, your achieving the potential that you were given from the beginning of time. And that's your redemption, the redemption of your higher soul in a body in this world. So God bless you all. We should all be protected from what's going on out there. Stay attached to one, the only one. There is only one. And stay attached to the Jewish people because, well, we're part of this narrative that needs to play itself out very soon. God bless you all. Have a great Shabbat. We'll see you next week on all the platforms. All the best.